Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. All right, we're live here at Never Been Promoted. We're going to take this for the first time. This is our first going live show, and I've got the perfect guest, my buddy Donnie. I'm coming from Sweden. This guy is the GOAT for innovation for Sweden. And I'll even extend it to Scandinavia, maybe the world. We're going to find out. And he's going to talk to us today about what it takes to be a good innovator, to be in a startup. And a lot of entrepreneurs are in this spot. So we're going to learn a bunch from him. Hey, this is your first time ever seeing a broadcast from Never Been Promoted. I appreciate this. I hope you, this is the first of many. And if you've heard or listened to our podcast before or the YouTube channel, thanks for coming back. Our mission, be very clear, is to help you unleash your entrepreneur, to help entrepreneurs, millions of them, get better at entrepreneurship, help you kind of cut that tie. See what I did there with that metaphor? Help you just stop getting held back by the things, the people, the excuses you make, and those fears you hold on to for some reason. You're not alone in the journey. You can do it. There's lots of people out there trying it, and they're succeeding, and they keep going. And that's what I hope you get to learn today. But let's bring Donnie on, full of energy. Mr. Donnie, how are you?
There we go. I'm great. I'm fantastic. This is great. I'm just so happy to meet you again.
We've been interacting for years on LinkedIn and a few podcasts and live events. I came like 15 minutes late to your last one, and you were mad at me for a year. I didn't even have it on my schedule. I still apologize for that. I felt so bad.
And I was going on and on about that. He should be here any minute. I can hear the virtual cab kept driving up the.
I mean, it was like you're like, text me, yo, where are you? And I'm like, see, guys, here's the first rule of entrepreneurship. You got to show up. You gotta
exactly.
show up.
80% of success is showing up. And that's the thing. Just by showing up and doing it, you're way ahead of most other people. That's rule number one.
Oh, no doubt. If you show up, so I love it. If you show up every day and you never quit, you'll never lose. You may not win always, but you'll never have lost because you weren't there.
That's the thing. There's so many old. The world is full of quotes, right? And we can probably spend the rest of the hour or 2 hours talking just old quotes. But the whole, 80% of success is showing up, and it's not a failure. You don't fail until you give up. I'm still trying. I'm still trying. I'm not, and for me, success isn't like reaching any kind of, it's just waking up every day and thinking, so how can I do something better or bring something better to the world? Because I was just given one more chance to do it, and every day you're given one more chance to do it. And that's the magic of the whole revolving thing. And the sun comes up one more time. And even though you've had a really bad day, things didn't go your way, whatever bad happened to you, don't forget, tomorrow you'll get another shot at it. That's
100%.
100%.
Now, before we dive into your role and all the stuff you're doing at KTH, I love icebreakers. Some people get, kind of the chills from it, but this is the icebreaker I'm going to ask you. It has nothing to do with what we're about to talk about, entrepreneurship. If you were to get arrested and no one knew that you had been arrested and they found out, what would they assume you did?
What would they assume I did? That's a tough icebreaker. What would they assume I did? I think they would probably disorderly behavior, disrupting some kind of a general quiet public meeting or something.
I think that's that's what I would definitely be arrested for. Instigation, getting someone else to do something. Or like, did that guy tell you to do it?
Because I'm the guy that goes sort of, excuse me, does anybody else apart from me see that there's something wrong with this picture over here? And like 5,000 people turn around and go, shh, what are you
Why
I've actually done that. And then this is funny. And you just hope I've actually done this because I was in Hungary with a delegation from Sweden, right? So it was me and the deputy prime minister of Sweden and a bunch of other people. And we were in the like 200 people, all the diplomats and people, and everybody else seemed to be important, but I was just a guy. And then they had these headsets, right? And then people were they were doing a real-time translation because it was the Hungarian prime minister was going to do the opening, the intro. So he starts speaking in Hungarian, and my headset isn't working. I can't hear anything. And and people around me, they're going, like that sort of, and I still can't get it. And I'm missing out on this. So after like 2 minutes, I go, and there's like 200 people in the room and everybody's like super important. And I'm going, excuse me, hello, my earphone, my earphones aren't working. I'm from Sweden. Can you please help me fix this? And then everybody around me goes, thank you for saying. I can't hear anything either. Mine are broken too. And like,
You're just nodding.
Nobody was hearing everything, and everybody was going, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Like, I'm so glad he said something, because this guy's going to quiz me on it later, and it's I'm not going to have. That's funny. All right. Tell me, okay, KTH Innovation, Sweden. Listen, I don't know if there's even police in Sweden. It's such a nice country. Yeah. No one ever gets in trouble there. There's no crime. And I think it was part of the Vikings at some point. I don't know. I watched that series. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Tell me about KTH, what your role is there, and kind of how you work with entrepreneurs. Kind of set the stage for us a little bit.
Super short version is that KTH is the largest tech university in Sweden. And KTH Innovation is the department at that university that helps students, researchers, and anybody at the university, actually. If the janitor comes up with a good idea, we'll help them with early stage tech innovation support. So anybody that has an idea, they can come to us and get free support from the stage where they go, I have an idea. What if you could do this and this and this? Cool. And we'll help them for free with no strings attached. And then we have a process when we work through loads of different validation stages, and then we get them to a point when they're good to go. So we help them start stuff, hopefully validated, so they have a chance of surviving as well. Because just having like a measurement that, how many startups did you start last year is kind of sucky, because if everybody fails and dies, that wasn't really, you didn't do anybody any favors. So just helping people start stuff isn't helping people. Helping people survive stuff and scale stuff, that's helping people. Starting is super easy. I mean, scaling and growing is really, really hard. So
where's the point of, so if you have an idea, you're an entrepreneur, you're out there like, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Great. Where does it usually come to a grinding halt for a lot of people? Oof. And when you, and on that, I'll stack a question is, what do they have to do to break through?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, the thing is, what happens is that people get this idea, like they go, oh, I have an idea, and they look around and they can't see it anywhere else. So of course they think that they're the first person in the world ever to think of this, right? That's the first idea. Nobody has ever thought about this in the world before. I am so unique. Maybe not. But anyway, so then you have like 4 main reasons for why the idea you came up with doesn't exist as of yet, because innovation is not time to market, it's timing to market, right? Timing is the big part of innovation. And innovation is not invention. Invention is just a thing. That's not innovation. So just coming up with a thing isn't innovation. Innovation is value creation for somebody else than yourself. Anyway, so the 4 main reasons for things not working is, 1, they simply don't work. There's the law of physics. You've come up with some kind of a contraption in your head that just does not work. You cannot transform it into actual, it doesn't work. 2, it works, but it doesn't scale. And this is kind of very common, because you have something that might work in a very small scale in a lab or in a makerspace, or it might be very sort of sales intense thing if it's a service, but it doesn't scale because it will always cost you more money to get it to a point where it makes money than you'll ever get back. So it doesn't, it works, but it doesn't scale. And then of course, that whole thing, it can scale, but it doesn't really make money, which is interesting, because that brings us to the 4th and worst reason of all, or not worst, but the hardest thing to swallow, is that it works, it scales, it could make money, but you know what? Nobody really wants it. It's like the world are full of ideas that are sort of, and that's a very, very big mistake we make in the beginning, because 1, we don't talk to people around us and, get their perspective. What do you think about this idea? Because 1, we're kind of afraid that they won't like it. 2, there's this very, very misaligned thing that if I tell people about my idea, they'll steal it. The thing is, it takes so much blood, sweat, and tears to get an idea out there. So don't worry about it, because just because you hear an idea doesn't mean that you can do it. So that's another thing, right? So we tend to keep ideas in our head for too long without testing them on the market, and then we spend too much time trying to make them work without actually trying them with the people that we're thinking are going to use them. So like the users or the members or the buyers or the customers. And that's, so many things stop in those very, very early stages, because usually we overestimate the importance of our idea in the world. Like we think we have to come up with the best thing ever. But if it's it's a nice but not necessary thing, people aren't going to fall over backwards and start throwing you money at you. It's not, that. And the world is full of, the internet. It's like saying, my work is done. I've managed to release the app on App Store, or my work is done. I published the webpage. Well, I'm sorry, sir, or madam, but that's when the work starts. Right. The internet is kind of full of web pages, and how are you going to break through, and how are you going to make people see it, and how are you going to convert them to paying members, and and the list goes on. So overestimating the importance of the idea is usually a very, very big thing, and underestimating the enormous amount of competition out there, because just do the math. How many people are in the same kind of age that you are, in the same kind of social circles, in the same kind of education, with the same kind of media consumption? If you're in the millions, you can bet you that there are at least 1,000 people at this moment coming up with exactly the same idea that you have now.
Oh, one thing Google always proves to me that my idea is no good. It's not that it's any good, and there's different mousetraps, and you have your different flavors of it. I find it interesting, though. The reason it doesn't work is it's not because of the entrepreneur. They don't have the grit or the grind or the resilience to get through it, which I see that a lot, where people kind of make excuses and then it fades away.
Yeah. I'll have to, one balloon I have to pop right away is, there's nothing called, we had to quit because we ran out of money and the funding ran out. You run out of grit and perseverance. There's always money, there's always funding, there's always, but if you say, it's not going to work, I'm going to quit, that's what people run out of. They run out of steam because, but it's tough. It's not easy. It's you have to really get up every day and push through. The whole, again, 80% of success is showing up, and most people actually don't after a while.
Well, there's the show up, check in, shiny object syndrome too, and I think Alex Ramosi talks about this, where it's a great idea, it's going well, it's growing, all the fun things, logos, all the stuff you probably shouldn't care about, you do, and then it gets hard, and then you give up, and then you get a new idea and you start over again. And that's it. There's a double innovator dilemma there, because you have both that one, which means that you'll never hang on to anything long enough for it to actually start making money, because you always keep on switching ideas. And you always get new ideas that always sound better than the other one. And then as an innovator, you're usually like 3 years ahead of the curve anyway, which means that you won't get to a point where people get it until after 3 years anyway. So those two combined lead to so many people starting things and, spending all of their time and effort and energy on them. And then it doesn't happen. But this is something I say to everyone, that like when I have a room full of people that are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs or anything, it's like, okay, how many in here have ever had what they felt was a really good idea and didn't do anything about it, and then 3 to 5 years later you see somebody else doing it and they're succeeding? Or you tried something 3 years ago, it didn't work, and then somebody does it in 3 years today, and it's working. And then usually the half of the room puts their hand up and go, yeah, well, I've done that. Yeah, well, that's really interesting, because the mistake we do then is that we get like cynical and bitter and angry with the world, and we blame the world for us not succeeding, right? But the truth is, it's the opposite. If you see things today working that you thought about 3 years ago, that means that the things you're thinking about today might work in 3 years. That's right. Your brain was right. You just didn't trust it.
The head is screwed on correctly. If you never, ever, ever see the ideas you're thinking of come to life, that's, then we're on a shaky ground. But if you constantly see things coming to life 3 to 5 years after you thought of them, that's a great thing. It means you're actually doing it. You just need to just adjust the timing. Innovation is timing to market, not time to market. It's the right place at the right time to the right person. Apple released something called, it wasn't called iPad, it was called Newton back in 97 or 87 even. It was the crappiest handheld computer the world has ever seen. Then 15 years later, they tried again and they call it the iPad. Oh, kind of worked. So it's
well, and it's sometimes it's validated. So that idea where there's things usually in a way, right? So you make, these are the excuses I talk to people, or fears that people hold on to. And I think as an entrepreneur, you're out there, you have to really kind of have a self-reflection to say, hey, I didn't try that because I was afraid. I didn't know how to execute. I didn't know what to do. It's too big. I have bills, whatever it is. You have ideas like that now that you'll never get out of that cycle unless you break through it. And that's the hardest part of the start. And it sounds like some of the stuff you guys do there takes a good idea, gives them the confidence, the idea that you're not alone, because to push through, and then the perseverance of, hey, can you make the adjustments to your life for wherever you're coming from to persevere. So if you have family and kids and mortgages and all the things that go, bills, sometimes it's hard. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It's just hard. And what I hear is, and I see this a lot, sometimes your ideas are too big. And I say that because where you are right now, you want to solve this huge problem. Well, you better go all in on that big problem, because you're going to have to go get big money. You're going to have to take huge risks. Sometimes the idea can be smaller, and your measure of success would follow with that. Meaning like, hey, I can replace my personal income with this idea and create wealth and things for others. So maybe I like to hear you talk about is the size of the idea relative to the relativity of success, because one gets investment and the other one creates just a good lifestyle.
Yeah. It's lots of things. That's really, really interesting, because it comes down to as well, why are you in it? Are you just in it to make a living and be as you said, we're talking about a lifestyle. And then that's fine. Then it's not about maybe, I have to find something disruptive and fix something enormous. Otherwise, it's never going to, and people get panicked over that they're not, being disruptive enough. You don't go there. Then you go to something that kind of works. You pick something up, you build something, you prove to yourself, first and foremost, that you can be an entrepreneur. You prove to yourself that you can run your own business. You prove to yourself that you can make the money. Once you've done that, then the world opens up to you. You have more choices because you have a new network. You have maybe connections to investors. You've proven the point that you can make money, and the investors love that. If you're coming like fresh off the, like that, and you've got this huge idea, you have a lot of things to prove before you can actually get to a point where, people are giving you the money. And I'm not a big fan of Mr. Musk, but I usually use him as an example because he didn't start by sending a rocket into space, right? That wasn't his first thing. That's like 25 years into his entrepreneurial career, when he started 25 years ago working at a payment company that happened to be a huge success that they then sold as PayPal. And then that led into the next thing, that led into the next thing, led into the next thing. And then 25 years later, he's now sending rockets into space. So, it's and so any idea you have, and even when we get people in here, doesn't matter how big the idea is, it always starts with one like small step. So we talk about big visions and baby steps. And my first question to everybody is, okay, cool. That sounds like a fantastic idea. Let's try and get that working. But where do you start? How do you want to start by checking one? Is this something that people will use or want to buy?
Well, that's a great place. So go through that. So there's a lot of people who will see this. It's like, I have an idea. I just don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
And so figure the scenarios. Idea, doesn't have money, maybe not have all the things needed, technical or business acumen, whatever. One of the two are probably missing. Yep. Where does someone start? How do they validate? And where would you go with that?
That is where everything starts. Usually when I start stuff, which I still love doing, it's all about, I love starting stuff in like business verticals where I've never been before, because I like just the exploration and understanding how a new business works and a new market works or whatever. But it's always about starting out by saying, okay, I have an idea, and then trying to figure out, what do I need to learn, or what do I need to understand in order to solve this? What kind of people or skills do I either need myself or to surround myself with to solve this? and trying to understand what will it take to actually make this a reality, and understanding that. And then understanding, okay, well, what can we, and then it's like super, I mean, we built a process here with tiny validation steps. Like, first of all, who do you think would want to use this? Okay, these. Well, let's go and speak to those. And then we speak to them and they say, who do you want to use this? And they go, yeah, well, not in the form it's now. We will probably use it like this and this and this. Okay, so we learn something. And then you iterate that. And then you iterate. I mean, it's a constant iteration of speaking to people all the time and trying to figure out if it's a whole new idea and a whole new technology. It's you have like 10 years from idea to market. I mean, it's a long, the deeper the technology, the longer the time it will take to get to market. And that's why I say to everybody, if you're a first timer, don't start with something that's too difficult. Learn the ropes, prove that you can run your own business, prove that you can actually be an entrepreneur, prove that you can be a business person, more or less doing anything. That will it will bring you in money. It will give you confidence to do business. And, don't worry about it. If people say, well, I can't do that, well, it'll take me 2 years. Well, 2 years is boom, this fast. But in 2 years' time, you'll have not only proven to yourself, but you'll be proven to the world that you can run a business. And then everybody else will say, I trust that person. They know how to run a business. They know how to bring in the money.
Do a lot of your candidates do they have to be like on site, or do a lot of them mix? Hey, I know you got a full-time job and that's where you got to, like, how do you mix when someone's like, they're getting going, but they got responsibilities. It is a great idea. They are focused, but they got things they got to do. What do you do with that group?
I mean, everybody I work with, they are either full-time students or full-time researchers. I mean, everybody I work with are part-time entrepreneurs at best. So, I mean, so we have a very, very patient process that works with them for a long time, getting to the point where, but there comes a time, when you get to a point when it actually starts making money and you start getting customers on board. And there's like sort of there's a tipping point where you go, okay, well, then I have to sort of really go at it full on.
Yeah.
And that's usually when they say, okay, well, I'll take a leave of absence from my work, or I'll hopefully graduate from school, or I'll whatever, and then I'll try this. And I mean, but that's a good thing about Sweden, right? Because nothing bad can ever really happen to you in Sweden, because we have this, everybody, you don't pay to go to school, you get paid to go to school. School is free. There's no tuition fees. And then,
that's it.
If you can't make your own living, we'll help you with that as well. So, I mean, it's kind of a risk-free environment. So a lot of people try stuff without being, scared of it not working out. And it's,
do you think though that creates an environment that, a lot of the facing adversity of like, oh God, I've got to make this work, pulls three people through to be great? Do you find sometimes that it's easy, sometimes takes away from the drive of relative to maybe, because I know you travel around and talk a lot around this. Where do you see though, when you see that environment of risk-free, meaning like really there's no pressure, versus the ones who are like, I got to make it work or I'm stuck here forever?
That's a very, very good point. And I mean, I hear this a lot. I hear it a lot from, I won't say that it's a black and white, yes and no thing. I will say there's two sides to that coin. Yes, I will say that if in a completely risk-free environment, it might, create a lower sense of urgency, because it's, nothing, bad will ever really happen. But if I look at the quota, I see more things coming out of the risk-free environment because people are prepared to try stuff than in very high risk environments where if you try it, I mean, you put everything on the table. It's like all in with everything. And that creates a higher risk, because when people fail, they fail terribly, and it hurts really, really bad. So I mean, but I won't say that it's, a completely, one is bad and one is good. I'll say that they both have, their drawbacks. I will definitely say that. But if I look at the numbers, and I see, countries of innovation indexes, and Sweden being the country with the most multinational companies per capita, and unicorn capital of Europe, blah, blah, blah kind of thing, then, obviously we're doing something right. So it's not that it's not like it's a failing model. I'd say that it's definitely working. I mean, most people, in Sweden, we have 18 months parental leave. So if you're a mom and a dad, you get to share 18 months. Usually they share it 50-50. So the dad gets 9 months and the mom gets 9 months, or it's like a 6 plus 12 month thing. And there are so many companies started by people who are like pushing a pram on like a 12-month parental leave that are going around thinking about things and then coming up with an idea and then spending time during their parental leave, because I mean, they've just got a eat, sleep, poop thing, and that doesn't really communicate.
That's the basics of life. When your own journey, right? You see so many ideas. Have you seen a few? How are you managing your own? Because like you're an idea guy, and if you got people who are just maybe watching you for the first time don't realize how big of an idea guy you are, and you're out there a ton. So how do you manage your own ideas, or is it a case of the Taylor's kids are naked here? I can't get my own off the ground there.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, okay, it's a really good questions there, but this one is good as well, because actually being in this environment is perfect for me, because I get to speak to people about ideas, and I can sort of bounce my ideas around with them as well, and I can help. I can add value to them, and sometimes my ideas aren't the best ideas, but I can get them thinking about their own ideas by talking about ideas. So it's a way for me as well. It's a great way for me just to offload as well when it comes to ideas and talking to people as well. And then of course, when it comes to my own things, I've become a lot better at, waiting for the ideas that I feel, okay, this could be a game changer. Because I mean, I get ideas every day. I get business ideas every single day, but they're sort of, it's a idea kind of thing, right? It's not, risk and reward. It's not, and that's another thing that you have to think about when you get ideas is, okay, how big can this become based on how much effort I need to put in, based on how, and what do I think I could bring back to me? And if the curve is like too low, if it's like a shrug thing, or it might become, something that people might use, and it's like, then you have to think twice about, do I jump ship and go completely, or is it like more of a weekend hobby thing that I run, on evenings and weekends, and see if I can build something, an extra income for me and my family kind of thing. So for me, it's all about, I get a great opportunity to just offload ideas and thoughts and in discussion with people. But then I when I come across things that I think are, this could be something, then I usually spend like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years mulling them over, bouncing them around with people, and I've realized that I've realized I don't need to be in a hurry, because the entrepreneurial dilemma is that you feel that it has to be done today, even though it won't work until next year.
Yeah, well, and you talked about earlier where you had an idea, you see somebody put it into play. Typically, if that market's big enough, you still can jump in and just improve the idea. And I'm like, you just proved it works. So go do something with that and improve it.
I mean, it's like which city do you live in, Thomas?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. It's like saying, you know what, Thomas? I was thinking of starting a restaurant in Atlanta, but I saw there was at least one more here, so I won't start one. Yeah. It's like, haven't you got any other kind of food or in a different geographical place? I mean, there's always, and this is interesting because there's always, and this is super important, because you have to be laser focused on your specific target group, because there's always a target group. Hopefully, the thing is, if you go narrow in target, you can go in depth, because then you can find the people who you are catering to, and don't care about everybody else. Just because you want to open a restaurant doesn't mean that you're going to open a restaurant that sells every kind of food of the world. Even if you decide to, I'm going to start selling pizzas, then you have another plethora of different, sub verticals in the pizza industry. You have home delivery Domino's pizzas. You have artisan Italian stone bake oven pizzas. You have maybe it's a fancy upscale restaurant that also happens to serve pizzas. Maybe it's grab and go 7-Eleven pizzas. There's 1,000 ways of serving pizza. Maybe it's a frozen pizza because that's a convenience. There's just because you're talking about restaurants and then we're talking about pizza, there's another subset of pizzas that there's always, you can find, your take on it. Like, okay, I'm gonna do vegan pizzas. Okay, cool, vegan pizzas. That's a thing where you knocked out 85% of the rest of the competition because they have dairy cheese on their pizzas.
Well, that's right, and you're getting niched, and I think you're on to something there. So even if your idea seems to be out there, your take on it, and even your personal brand sometimes can be the differentiator that creates, it creates a different problem of scale, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. And if you're out there trying to start a business of some sort, either it's services or technology or whatever, if you're starting at something where you're going to be part of the story, then that's an okay way to start. Now, long term, I face this personally. Like, I have a business that's a lot around a brand, this one here. Long term, that doesn't scale, but it doesn't mean you don't have different ideas of what market problems you could go solve that have nothing to do with your personal brand, but because you've been in this position of wherever you are. So my example is with marketing. A lot of people want my time, and I love to provide it. So it limits how many customers I can take a month. But I see a lot of other problems in marketing. Specifically, a lot of marketers don't know really what they're doing. It's like where everyone goes when they don't know what to go do with the rest of their life, they become a marketer. And so that creates a whole problem for the industry of, how do I trust any of these marketing agencies? So I see a problem of, hey, listen, I'm going to go verify what you're doing as a marketer and say, this company's good. That has nothing to do with my brand. That's a process. Yeah. But it took me a few years as a marketer to see that's a massive problem that I face every time we sell something, every time I talk to any other marketer. And the point being is, just get going, and don't worry that you can't scale this right now, but you can scale it to some level to get the skills and the MBA, if you will, of entrepreneurship needed to take the next step. And like you said, Elon Musk, whatever your opinion is, the guy, he started one place, blew it up, but don't expect those results. But he also pivoted to something else and then something else because he had opportunity. I do want to go back to like Elon's. I would say, do not measure your success by anybody who's an influencer or major out there. That is they're a movie star and amongst millions of actors who can barely afford rent or find that, hey, I hit my big show and it only paid $5,000. And you're like, oh my God, I waited 5 years for that. And just take the idea that if I could build something that adds a little side income, that could become my regular income, you're killing it. That's a great place to start. It's what you do next.
And people, every single time when people start talking about these, the outliers, like the super entrepreneurs, they have, who's yours? Oh, it's like the Musks and the Zuckerbergs and all of those. I mean, they actually don't understand how much work they've spent to get where they are. Two, they haven't understood the when you're talking about probability of being in the right place with the right thing at the right time and everything working out, the stars aligned. I mean, it's like one in 10 million things is, coinciding to help those accidental empires take off. But I mean, when Facebook wasn't, Facebook wasn't the first social network, right? Apple wasn't the first smartphone. Twitter or X was not the first microblog. There were loads of them when they came out, but Twitter happened to be the one that sort of won that race. So I mean, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it as well is what you're talking about as well, is that you start somewhere, and usually you have, if you're selling things, usually you have some kind of a customer strategy over time, because you cannot start by saying, oh, I have this tiny thing that I'm making at home, I'm going to phone GM and sell to them. No, that they won't be your first customer, because they will be your customer in 7 years when you can deliver that amount of product to them, because they won't work with somebody. You have to start smaller. And I mean, that I have examples of that. When me and my sister started our first own business, it was we were making translations and localizations of kids games for computers back here in Sweden. So we were taking foreign games and translating them to Swedish and then re-releasing them as a publishing house on the Swedish market. And we, of course, we wanted to sign all the big names, but I mean, we met BBC and the trade fairs, and they looked down on us and said, who are you? Like two siblings in Sweden. We're working with the big publishing houses in Sweden. So then we started working with some smaller companies, and with some smaller companies, we worked with them. We built a good track record there. And then the next time around, the next year, we went back to the same trade fair. We met all of the people again. We signed the next bigger company. And then because we'd been coming back, because we were showing up, because we were nice people that people wanted to work with, very important. You have to be a likable person that people want to work with. And because people wanted to help us, we run into this Australian guy. And he said, why don't we don't have anybody in Sweden. Why don't you take on Sweden for me? And so we said, yeah, sure. So we went home. They sent us like paperwork, which was this thick. Turned out it was like Southeast Asia's biggest media house, Village Roadshow. And we're like, and we sent him back an email saying, sorry, he was the CEO. Said, sorry, Milt, we cannot work with you. We're a tiny company, 2 people, so but we have this track record, and we're doing this and this and this. So we could prove that we were at least doing things. And he wrote back to us and he said, well, you know what? I've met you 2 years running and I trust you. I like you. Let's try it. So then we signed them. And then year 3, back at the same show again, we meet the BBC and we say, look, we've signed all of these. And they said, whoa, impressive. You're on. So then we signed BBC. But I mean, it wasn't just that we showed up one day and signed BBC. It was like a 3-year process of us getting to a point, proving ourselves, coming back, showing up every single year. And then in the end, we actually got the big customer as well. So, but it's, you have to have this over time. As you said, you start small, you prove yourself, and then you can take on a bigger chunk and then bigger chunk. And then you get to a point.
That's right. You prove it. And part of that, what you described, I love this part because you built a network. And I love this quote, and I can't think who said it, but it's, most people can't make money because they can't be patient for 12 months. And we know we do a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn for my company of Instantly Relevant, right? And we're in this world of instant gratification, AI, and everyone wants leads and they want their stuff now. But here's the reality is that when you're in a trust-based business, whatever it is, you're not going to probably get leads as a regular or closed business quickly. You have to be able to you have to have a plan to establish that trust. Yours was, hey, we'll go to the shows, we'll get to know them, they'll get to know you, because to get the deals you want, you have to be able to sustain that they know you'll be around and you're legit. You're not like, the people who buy things carefully in things that are expensive in particular, have a lot of investment for value. They don't make those investments lightly. And so they also are very, keen to snake oil. So they're like, hey, I know you get sales, but I'm not sure about you, even though I think I like you, but let me just back off and let me see if you're gonna be around. And so I think maybe talk about that because you're really good at developing a network. That's how we've met and interacted a bunch. How important though is that for, let's say, direct to customer versus B2B services? From your take on developing a network. Yeah, but it's part of your development strategy.
But I think one thing to never forget is that no matter if you're selling direct to consumer or if you're selling B2B, business to business, don't forget there's always a person pressing the green button. There's always a person signing the paper. There's always a person opening the wallet. A person. People buy from people. I'm not saying that means that you're automatically going to sell anything by being a great person, but I will say that you increase your chances by networking, being the one that shows up, being the one that is, if it's like a thought leader person that talks about the things and you own your very, very, please dare to be laser focused. Don't worry. If you try to sell everything to everyone, you won't sell anything to anyone. Try to be say no to other stuff. Be vegan pizza. Everybody else can sell the other pizzas. Be your pizza and the one you believe in. And then the thing is, you will find a following for you. No, you aren't for everyone, but there is a following for you as well. There's somebody out there for you. And that's who you want to find. And you don't care about the others because you won't sell to them anyway. That's not who you're catering to. So be laser focused. Yeah, be laser focused. Build your network. Just and show up. Keep showing up. And in the end, it will. You'll get to a point. I mean, and people underestimate. Everybody who's a success will quote you. You work your ass off for 10 years, night and day. And then suddenly one day you're considered an overnight success, and people just say, "Oh, it's made it so easy. It's just there," and they forget about the near bankruptcies or the bankruptcies and the pivots and the turnarounds and the heartbreaks and the weekends and everything you've gone through to get to that point. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, a Swedish soccer player, who he spent a year in LA Galaxy playing as well. He just retired now from the football field, and he's considered to be one of the great soccer players, right? Soccer in Europe, we call football, because we actually use our feet. Anyway,
It's football
Why,
everywhere except in America.
why don't they call it
Therefore,
handball
soccer.
or carry ball in the US? Anyway, but the thing is, and he was considered, oh, look, he makes it look so easy, and he's like, there's all of these incredible things with the ball, right? But what people don't understand is that the extra hours he showed up before practice, the extra hours he stayed after practice, trying things that nobody had ever tried before, 1,000 times over until he actually made it work. And then he took that to the field. And then with having an open mind, daring to try things that nobody had ever tried before. Who knew you could kick a ball that way? Well, he tried it, it worked, and hey, he scored goals with it. It's like another Swedish, I'm doing the sports analogy thing there, Ingmar Stenmark, slalom skier from the 80s, greatest athlete in Sweden. He got the question once from a TV anchor who was saying sort of, Ingmar, I mean, I can't believe when I watch you ski, it's so easy, and like, you're just so lucky. I mean, you have this, you never sort of kind of fail, and it's just so damn lucky all the way down. And Ingmar just looked at him and he actually said, you know what? You're right. And for every hour I train, I tend to get more lucky.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, so getting out there and putting it on the line, falling on your face, that's all part of it. And just kind of just conscious of time here. I want to bring this in a little bit. So yeah, go ahead, because I want to
one more thing on that, and that's just to end this one then. And that's what people forget, and they don't understand. Any sport you're trying to learn, any skill you're trying to learn, you will fall on your face. And to learn something, you have to dare to suck. You have to admit yourself, I do not know how to do this. I have to dare to try and make a fool of myself and try it and suck. But when it comes to running a business, we think we have to do it right from the start. It's the same thing. It's a skill. It's an acquired skill. It's something we practice. So start small, go out and learn the ropes and build as you go.
So one of the things I always say, kind of cut the tie to, right, is this idea of fear. And people hold on to it, and for whatever reason, I've been there. Fear of success is one thing, which is where you're like, I'm afraid to, and it's really not afraid of success because you're afraid of losing what you've done because I made it, then I didn't. It's like, all those things together still are fear that you just, at some point if you dwell on it, you lose. It's an amazing thing. If you pay attention to it, it grows. It's like a monster that's going to eat you up. Yep. And if you're just conscious of it, but like, I don't really care if that's not important, that makes me move further. That actually is a motivator that's incredibly powerful. That if I am going to suck and it's okay, but if you don't learn from it, you are going to continually suck. If you continually don't learn from your mistakes or shortcomings or whatever else, or you can't self-reflect, it's over. Like, you're not going to make it. But if you do, you will, because you'll improve and you'll be successful. And all of a sudden things start not working. And so it's like, you got to also check your ego along the way. And the humility checks of entrepreneurship are profound. Like,
But the thing is, and we have this perception of, loss and failure and not making it and that whole thing. But the thing is, I mean, we're doing the quotes engine thing now, but I mean, the only loser is the person who is so afraid of not making it that they don't even try. The fear of not being good enough, which is usually them with themselves, looking themselves in the mirror and being afraid of not being enough, being afraid of not being good enough, stops them from even trying to be good enough. And I mean, and that's the thing. And you know what? When it comes to that, if you're looking at personal development, of course, there will always be somebody out there that you will feel inferior to, because that's kind of in 10 billion people in the world, what do you expect? But there will be people who you are for. There will be people who will listen to you. There'll be people who you can cater to. There are people who will listen to and try and want to buy what you're selling if you're super, super clear about it. So that's something. And hey, in the end of the day, when you get to the point where you're going to turn off the lights and everything is over, if you're going to look yourself in the mirror, at least I want to say, well, you know what? I tried. I gave it my best shot and I tried. I don't want to end up there going, well, I didn't really try because I wish I had. And then, I'd rather I tried and failed and learned something from that than never, ever tried it at all. Because you know what? You have one life.
Right. Listen, I know, conscious of time. I put your LinkedIn up here. It's Donnie, Donnie. If you end up listening to the podcast letter, SC Lygonis with a Y,
Yes.
Lygonis. You do a lot of live things. You want to tell? I know we want people to connect you from LinkedIn, but do you have anything coming up you want to promote, or just how people should maybe get a hold of you, and who should get a hold of you as well?
I just say, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to, be a part of your lives. Join my live show. I do a live show on Wednesday afternoon, Swedish time. So that's early morning, East Coast, really early morning, West Coast time in the US. So you can have it in the morning show, and follow me on LinkedIn. I'm going to start posting again. I did a daily post for 500 days in a row. I'm going to start posting that again, leadership, entrepreneurship and stuff. So follow me on LinkedIn, connect me with there. And, I'm happy to help if there's anything, if I can, I do.
I love it. All right. Last question, right? If there was probably one thing I should have asked you, but I did not, what was that question?
Oh, wow. One thing, I don't know. I think you've asked me tons of stuff. Usually people ask me strange things like, what's the SC and where are you born and where are you from? And you don't sound Swedish and those kind of stupid things. But you could ask me sort of what's my what's my own latest startup, or what am I most passionate about? What am I most?
What are you most passionate about? That's what I was thinking about asking you. What was that?
I am and I'll tell you what, I'm most passionate about my latest passion project, which is based on the foundation that I started a couple of years ago called Entrepreneurs Without Borders, where we are now this autumn going to start a global movement with other people all over the world who want to help by starting what we call impact chapters, like Rotary groups in their own home city, where people come together, talk about impact creating startups, sustainable impact, saving the world, and then exchanging ideas between these groups. So we're going to start the world's most efficient impact sharing network on a global basis. And that is my biggest passion project right now, getting that started, starting this autumn. So if anybody out there wants to help out by starting an impact chapter in their own city, getting people together on a monthly basis to talk about how to bring social impact to their community, start something that actually helps people, or want to share something that works in their community that we can bring over to mine, then get in touch.
Love it. And I'd like to thank Brian Carroll from LinkedIn, who's like, hey, incrementing the business is key. And, turning things from, the right partners from me to we didn't cover that a bunch, but I want to just point that from a comment out. Thank you, Brian. And is that is a good point. At some point you become me to we, and there's a lot of control and other things. And you and I could probably do a whole podcast like channel on just how to let go of control and scale. But I think it's an amazing idea that when you start thinking we, you get a multiplier of effect. So,
yeah.
And I do the same thing applies even like as we look at the podcast and the YouTube channel. We're trying to bring on as many experts in their area of what they know, because when it's not just about my knowledge, it's about everyone else's and bringing it together. You learn more as well, and that applies in the business. So, Brian, I think that's a great thing. But Donnie, thank you so much, by the way, for coming on, going live with me. Our first live. Been wanting to do it for a while, and I saw this scheduled today, and I was like, what? There's nobody that will be more comfortable live than Donnie, who's
love it
on Happy LinkedIn, like no one I've ever met from a consistency standpoint. Now he's quitting at 500. Keep going.
Yeah. Chicken tired. Yeah. I'm starting it up again now. So next time I'll take breaks. Next time I'll tell you about how I tried to start running. And I gave
Did you say running?
Running as in jogging. I tried to start jogging. I tried to start running. I tried it. So I had this idea that if I did a run streak, maybe I'd get to a point where I was like a gazelle over the savannah kind of thing, not touching the ground. I did 365 days in a row. Boom, 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 clockwork. And then I was like, no, not going to work. And then I quit. But I gave it 365 days in a row before I gave up.
There you go. See, listen, that's great. And I'll leave you with this. Just because you stopped doing what you did because it's not working, it doesn't mean you've given up. It just means you're going to pivot to whatever that might be. He probably does 1 million push-ups already. He's probably doing like, I'm going to go 400 push-ups a day now, or something crazy.
Actually, I do.
I'm sure. I'm sure it's gone. Here's the thing about entrepreneurial energy. The addiction to that energy goes somewhere. It might be video games. It might be bad activities. It might be, good activities, whatever it is. It goes somewhere. It just doesn't just dissipate into the, never land and you're on the couch doing nothing. Yeah. It doesn't happen that way. So Donnie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you for
take,
having me on the show. Loved it.
yeah,
Loved
I
it.
appreciate it. Listen, I'll take you off stage here. I'll be right back. Let me say goodbye to everybody, but thank you so much. Donnie Lygonis, let me put up his stuff one more time here to get a hold of him on LinkedIn. There you go. Thanks, Donnie. For everybody who's made it this far and listened to this and participated, thank you. This is one of our first live broadcast on Never Been Promoted. We're going to do a lot more. Listen, I'm here to help 1 million entrepreneurs get better at entrepreneurship. I want you to unleash that entrepreneur. Cut the tie. See what I did there? To that metaphor, to all that stuff that's holding you back. It's super hard to do. You'll feel alone. You'll feel like it's a hard path to go, but it is one of the most rewarding things in the world is to become your own entrepreneur, to grow something, to be that person you kind of always wanted to be. So if you feel that calling, you feel it in you, you know what I'm talking about. Thanks again. Hey, listen, the only thing I ever ask is, give the YouTube channel a subscribe if you like the content, or if you want to see some more. And if you listen to the podcast, it's on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon, or actually all the players. Just give it a 5-star review if you love it. If you don't like it, just contact me on LinkedIn and tell me what you'd like to see different, and I'll do it. Until we meet again, thank you so much for watching and listening to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. Thank you.